Hey, my name is Morgan Godwin, and I want to talk to you about how I turned going to prison into a career. Now, I don't literally mean going to prison was my career. I just mean my primary job qualifications are A, I've been to prison, and B, I used to be addicted to heroin. Now, those aren't typically things you see on a resume. So how did I make a career out of it? Well, first off, I got mad. I got real mad. I witnessed a lot of injustices being committed to other people that I was in prison with. And then to a lower degree, the things that were happening to me, specifically being incarcerated for 5 years for the accidental overdose death of my best friend, Justin DeLong. And while I was in prison, I lost many more friends to heroin overdose. So I saw that the government was preferring to focus on punishment than overdose prevention. And I'm not okay with that. I think it is a misuse of scarce tax resources. And I think we should try to keep people alive and not wait until they die to punish someone. So before I even got out of prison, I started writing these emails. I never considered myself a writer. I never aspired to a career in writing. And I would do like send all to everyone on my contacts list. Now, mind you, we don't have internet access, so it's just these kiosks, and we just see our approved contacts and we can click on their names and then write this like MS-DOS email and hit send. So that's what I did. And I was sending them to Debbie Campbell at Families Against Mandatory Minimum Sentences. And somehow she found out that the Marshall Project had put out a pitch call for their Life Inside series. And I got in contact with the Marshall Project, who I pitched some story ideas. They selected one. I wrote it, and it was published. And it was co-published with Vice while I was still in prison, but weeks before my release. And that essentially fundamentally changed the course of my life, because for the first time I thought, oh my gosh, I can write things and get them published. Like, people care about what I have to say. That was a very new concept, because in prison you are silenced. I was censored for those emails I wrote, and they weren't going on the internet. They were going to some organizations, but mostly just my friends and family. They didn't like what I had to say. The prison administration, I was telling the truth, always the truth, but they hated that it was getting out to the outside world. And the day that the prison ran out of tampons and pads at the same time, and a prison guard told us to plug up with toilet paper, was the first day I considered myself a feminist. I drew the line there. I contacted everyone I could and asked them to contact the prison, their legislators, everyone, because that was an egregious violation. Well, from that moment, I was on the Special Investigative Services watch list, SIS. It's like the prison's FBI. And they scrutinized every single one of my communications, incoming and outgoing. They listened to all of my phone calls and even made jokes to me about the things they heard me talking privately about with my friends and family. There's no privacy in prison, but this level of censorship was taking it to another level. I would get dragged into the lieutenant's office and threatened with shoe time, going to the hole, if what I was saying ended up online. Now, I'm an American citizen. I thought I had First Amendment rights, but those are suspended the moment you step foot in a prison, in an American federal prison. So the prison guards wear the flag patch on their shoulders and then destroy your First Amendment rights. And they do it ostensibly for the safety and security of the institution, but that's nonsense. They just don't want people on the outside knowing what's happening on the inside. So that is how my career as a writer and political agitator began. So I got a full 12 months of halfway house. I think they just didn't want me in the prison anymore. They were sick of me. They didn't want to deal with me. They kicked me out, thankfully. So I got transferred to the halfway house in Portland, Oregon, where I stayed mad. So I'd gone to prison for a federal delivery resulting in death, case. And that same year of my release, the state of Oregon proposed their own law with, draconian mandatory minimum sentences, the same garbage on repeat. The same response to the overdose crisis that actually makes it worse and wastes taxpayer dollars by punishing only after a death has occurred instead of preventing a death. And so I talked to the dean of my school, who I'd met with, Dean Bangsberg, and I said, this cannot be. I cannot let the state where I was born and raised do this law. It will be a travesty of justice. And he said, have you ever thought about writing an op-ed? Well, I hadn't. He said, do it. So I did it, and I submitted it to the Oregonian, which is our big paper. And 30 minutes later, I got a response. They were going to run it. And I think they ran it in the Sunday paper. I saw my words in print. For 2 years, I sat in county jail, and my aunt had got me a subscription to the Oregonian, and I would read it cover to cover every day. And I thought, my life goal is getting an op-ed published in this paper. And I did it within a year of releasing from prison. But I didn't stop there. I had all these burning desires of things I needed to talk about, things I needed to say. I had been silenced for so many years. First, by the shame and stigma of drug addiction, and then actually literally silenced by prison, where I had no internet, no easy communications, where phone calls cost between $3 and $15. And so I really loved the idea that I could talk about the things I had experienced and the things I had witnessed and have someone listen. So I just kept writing. I've now published in the Marshall Project several times. The Washington Post read one of those and reached out to me and asked if I wanted to publish there, which I did. I published about my story with Justin's death for drug-induced homicide. Since then, I have had several media appearances, right? Because now I have a portfolio of published works. I started at Portland State University the week of my release, and I just never stopped talking about my experiences with overdose, both being an overdose survivor of my own overdoses and surviving the sudden overdose deaths of people that I love, including my own mother. And so pretty much, and I just kept talking, because I'm still mad and my friends are still dying. So I just repeat over and over the things that I know to be true based off of my life. And I do them, I have like a 3-pillar approach. I have my academic sphere, my media sphere, and my journalism sphere. And advocacy. Okay, so 4. So I do a lot of lobbying, trying to change laws for the better. I've worked with both of my United States senators for that, and I've done a lot at the state level. I write about things myself. Now, I don't just want to write about things that other people are doing. I want to affect positive change myself. So journalism isn't my primary sphere, but I also love to write and love to uplift stories of marginalized people. And so I do that. And then now I'm in academic, I guess, sort of. I'm still an undergraduate student, but because I've been out of prison now for just about over 3 years, I'm about to graduate. And I do research at the Health and Justice Action Lab out of Northeastern School of Law. And, sometimes I'm working with researchers who have terminal degrees, or at least a lot further along in their education than I am. And that makes me nervous. But part of my success is being uncomfortable all the time and surrounding myself with people I want to emulate. Not people I feel comfortable around, but people who have a career that I aspire to. I do a lot of stuff that I don't know how to do. I just sort of fumble through life and figure it out. No one taught me how to write an op-ed. No one taught me these things, but I had such a burning desire to share my story and try to make sure the pattern did not repeat for others as it did for me, that I now find myself making money doing this. I'm making money as an academic researcher. I'm making money as a journalist. I'm making money as a presenter at conferences, getting honorariums. And my only job qualification is I've been to prison and I used to be addicted to heroin. So it's not impossible. I took these traumas, these things I suffered, and instead of putting it behind me, as so many people said I should do, I keep it in front of me. It is my defining moment. It is what drives me. And I've actually turned it into a career. I had to work for free a lot for years, wrote a lot of tweets, shouted into the void. But eventually people started listening. And now I am a drug policy professional. I sit on my state's drug policy commission. I'm on the Measure 110 Oversight and Accountability Council. I do a lot. Well, I do a little bit of a lot of things, but the goal is always the same. Leave the world a better place than where I found it. And somehow I've been managing to get paid while I do that.